Welcome back. So for today's deep dive, we're looking at some really complex sources. They show a side of the suffrage movement often overlooked, specifically the antagonism Ida B. Wells faced from very prominent white suffrage leaders. It's quite startling, actually.
It really is. And before we get into that conflict, you really have to understand Wells's main focus. It wasn't just suffrage. Her mission was fundamentally about redefining racial violence. She investigated lynchings like nobody else had. She argued very forcefully that these weren't spontaneous acts of mob fury or, courage. No, she called them what they were: a calculated act of terrorism to maintain white supremacy. That framing is crucial.
Absolutely. And for Wells, this was deeply personal. I mean, her whole anti-lynching crusade really ignited after 1892, right? With the lynching of 3 black businessmen in Memphis. One was a close friend of hers.
That's right. And Memphis it was a terrifying place. 161 black people killed in the county that year alone.
So Wells didn't just write about it. She actively called for black residents to just leave Memphis.
Yeah.
Mass exodus.
Which took incredible courage. And of course, she paid the price. She was exiled from the city for it.
Just for telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So exile shapes her next moves then.
It does. And politically, it's key to remember, Wells wasn't officially a card-carrying suffragist or feminist in the organized sense. She was intensely practical, a strategist. She saw these white women fighting the white male power structure for the vote. And she saw an opportunity. Maybe she could recruit some pro-justice fighters, as she put it, for her anti-lynching work, a tactical alliance.
Okay, so she's trying to build bridges strategically, but then we get the conflict.
Yeah.
Introduce the main antagonist here.
Right. That would be Frances E. Willard, a huge name at the time, national president of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the WCTU.
Yeah, they were massive, weren't they? Hundreds of thousands of members.
250,000. A major political force. Willard's angle for suffrage was what she called home protection. Basically, get women the vote so they could outlaw alcohol, stop intemperance.
Okay. But how does that connect to antagonism towards Wells?
Well, this is where Willard makes a really cynical political choice. Her parents, abolitionists. But Willard needed Southern support, Southern votes, Southern influence for the WCTU's temperance goals. So she deliberately courted racist white Southerners.
So what did she say?
She gave an interview in 1890. It's pretty horrifying. She said, better whiskey and more of it is the rallying cry of great dark-faced mobs. The safety of white women, of childhood, of the home, is menaced in 1,000 localities, directly linking black men to danger to justify, sidelining them.
Wow, okay, that's incredibly blatant. So she's throwing black people under the bus for political gain.
Pretty much, and Wells saw it immediately. She wrote about it in her autobiography. Said Willard unhesitatingly slandered the entire Negro race in order to gain favor with those who are hanging, shooting, and burning Negroes alive.
No mincing words there.
Yeah.
So Wells realizes this potential alliance is deeply compromised. What does she do?
She thinks bigger. If the American political system, even supposed allies like Willard, wouldn't help, she'd go elsewhere. She took her campaign international, sailed to Great Britain in 1893. Her reasoning was America was silent on these atrocities, so she'd appeal to the religious and moral sentiment of Great Britain.
That's brilliant. Taking the fight to a different stage. And did it work?
It set the stage for a major confrontation. On her second trip, 1894, Wells found herself in Britain at the same time as Willard, and Willard was being celebrated there. They call her the uncrowned queen of American democracy.
The irony. So what happened?
Wells confronted her publicly in front of British temperance advocates Willard's audience, and she didn't just debate, she brought receipts. She read Willard's own racist 1890 interview quotes aloud.
Read them out loud, including the part
where Willard said the colored race multiplies like the locusts of Egypt. Just laid it bare.
Oh, that must have been explosive.
Absolutely. It was a direct exposure. And while Willard and her allies, like Lady Somerset, tried to discredit Wells in the press initially, it ultimately worked. Wells helped allies in London form the London Anti-Lynching Committee. This group had real clout editors, ministers, members of parliament. They could exert pressure.
So the international pressure was key.
Totally key. And the pressure was so effective that eventually both Willard and Lady Somerset felt they had to sign on to the committee's statement condemning lynching. Wells saw it as proof of the power of truth, even against powerful figures.
Okay, so let's distill the takeaway here for you listening. What does this story really tell us? It shows Ida B. Wells, someone with, frankly, very little conventional power, money, nor influence, as she said, achieving something remarkable. She used meticulous journalism, the power of truth, and this really smart strategy of international pressure.
Yeah, she exposed how even supposedly progressive leaders, powerful white liberals, were willing to sacrifice Black lives and rights for their own political agenda.
A tough lesson, but a vital one.
And her success really depended on seeing the fight beyond just the United States, using global opinion as leverage. Which makes you wonder, doesn't it? If Wells were tackling injustice today, where would she look for that international pressure? And who would be the modern equivalent of that uncrowned queen whose hypocrisy she'd aim to expose?
That's a fascinating question to ponder, something for you to think about until our next deep dive.
Huh?